My mom demanded I pay $23,000 for my sister's wedding. When I said no, she stole my credit card and drained my savings, but I let her. The next day, my sister called me screaming. My mother demanded I hand over $23,000 for my sister's wedding. When I refused, she broke into my apartment and maxed out my credit card, but what happened next made me laugh so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. The following morning, my sister called me in a complete panic. "All right everyone, buckle up because this story is absolutely wild. My mom literally robbed me to fund my golden child sister's fairy tale wedding, thinking she'd get away with it clean. Spoiler alert, she didn't. It backfired so spectacularly that I'm still amazed. So grab whatever snack you've got nearby, because you're going to want to hear every detail of this. Let me set the stage. I'm Bethany, 25 years old, and I've known my entire life that my mother has favorites. It's just one of those harsh realities you learn to accept growing up. Some kids get all the attention and praise, while others get stuck with all the bills. I was definitely in that second category. My younger sister, Vanessa, was the golden child from the moment she took her first breath. Private school? Paid in full. Brand new Honda Civic handed to her on her 16th birthday? Check. Full ride through Boston University without working a single shift at any job? You bet. Meanwhile, there I was, grinding my way through community college in Chicago, while working overnight shifts at a logistics warehouse just to afford my textbooks and ramen noodles. You know, character building and all that fun stuff parents like to talk about. But this situation? This took my mother's audacity to a completely new stratosphere. It was a Tuesday evening, around 7:30. I'd just gotten home from my job at the civil engineering firm downtown, still wearing my business casual clothes, ready to kick off my heels and pour myself a well-deserved glass of wine. That's when my mother walked straight into my apartment. Yeah, she still had a key from when she helped me move in 2 years ago. That was definitely a mistake I was about to regret big time. She had this look on her face, that calculating expression I'd seen 1,000 times before. She didn't even bother sitting down or asking how my day was. Just planted herself right there in my living room, crossed her arms like she was about to deliver a verdict, and dropped the bomb. Bethany, Vanessa's wedding is happening in 8 weeks. She needs $23,000. You're going to give it to her. Not could you help out. Not would you consider contributing. Just a flat-out demand. 23 grand. I set my wine glass down on the coffee table real slow, trying to process what I just heard because surely I must have misunderstood. Mom, that's literally my entire savings account. I've been building that money for almost 4 years. Her expression didn't change one bit, still had that cold, calculated look she perfected over the decades. You don't need it right this minute. Vanessa's getting married. This is her special day, her moment. Family comes first, Bethany. Or did I somehow raise you to be completely selfish? And there it was. The guilt trip she'd been using on me since I was old enough to understand the words. She was painting me as the villain for wanting to keep my own hard-earned money I'd saved through countless 60-hour work weeks, skipped vacations, and living in a tiny studio apartment when I could have afforded something nicer. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm and rational. Mom, I work incredibly hard for that money. Vanessa's 24 years old. Her fiancé Travis has a solid job in finance. Between the two of them, they're making twice what I bring home. If they can't afford the wedding they're planning, they should either scale it back or save up longer. That's how adulting works. Wrong answer. Her face turned to stone, absolutely rigid. So you're going to embarrass your own sister? Let her walk down the aisle in some bargain basement venue because her sister's too greedy and selfish to help family? Everyone's going to know you refused. Your aunts, your cousins, everyone we know. They'll all know what kind of person you really are. The threat couldn't have been clearer if she'd written it in neon lights. She'd turn me into the villain at every single family gathering for the rest of my natural life. She'd tell everyone I was the heartless daughter who destroyed her sister's dream wedding. Never mind that I'd bailed them out financially before, covered Mom's car payment twice last year when she forgot to budget for it. Paid for Vanessa's emergency dental work that somehow morphed into purely cosmetic veneers that cost 3 grand. But sure, I'm the greedy one here. I'm not paying for Vanessa's wedding, I said firmly, looking her straight in the eye. That's my final answer, Mom. The temperature in my apartment dropped what felt like 20 degrees. Mom's lips pressed together into this thin, angry line, and her eyes went dark with rage. "You're making a huge mistake, Bethany. A really big one. Don't say I didn't warn you about the consequences." She turned on her heel and marched out, slamming my apartment door so hard that my framed photos rattled against the wall. I sat there in the heavy silence that followed, this sinking feeling spreading through my gut, telling me this definitely wasn't over. I should have changed my locks that very night. Should have frozen my credit cards. Should have done about 50 different things to protect myself. But I figured even my mother wouldn't cross certain fundamental lines. Yeah, I was spectacularly wrong about that assumption. I woke up Wednesday morning to my phone buzzing like an angry hornet. 3 missed calls from my bank's fraud prevention department and 4 text alerts. My stomach dropped straight through the floor before I even opened the notifications. I logged into my banking app with shaking hands, and my absolute worst fears were confirmed right there on the screen. My available credit had completely cratered. Nearly $23,000 in pending charges had posted overnight. My checking account balance was untouched. This was purely on my credit card. The transaction history made me want to throw my phone through the window. Wedding venue deposit, $7,000. Catering company down payment, $6,500. Photography and videography package, $4,200. High-end florist, $2,800. Designer dress alterations, $1,400. Reception decorations and rentals, $900. Custom invitation printing, $200. The charges just kept going and going. All processed within a 7-hour window overnight. All made on my credit card that I kept locked in my desk drawer in my bedroom. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial the bank's number. Spent 25 minutes on the phone confirming what I already knew in my gut. Someone had used my card for an absolute shopping spree, and that someone had all my complete card details, including the 3-digit security code on the back. The fraud representative asked if anyone had unauthorized access to my apartment. "My mother has a spare key," I said, my voice hollow. "And she demanded this exact amount from me yesterday evening." The representative went quiet for a long moment. "I'm very sorry about this situation, but you're going to need to file an official police report for fraud and identity theft. We can definitely start the dispute process on our end, but with family member involvement, this could get legally complicated." I hung up and just sat there on my couch, trying to wrap my brain around what had actually happened. My own mother had broken into my apartment in the middle of the night, rifled through my personal belongings, found my credit card, and charged nearly $23,000 to fund my sister's over-the-top wedding. She didn't ask permission. Didn't borrow it. She straight up stole it. My best friend Dylan, we'd worked together at the engineering firm for 6 years, called right then for our usual Wednesday morning coffee run before work. He immediately heard something off in my voice when I answered. "You sound like somebody ran over your dog. What's wrong?" I told him everything that had happened. He was silent for what felt like forever, then said quietly, "Beth, you need to handle this right now, today, or they're going to keep doing this to you forever. This is your line in the sand." He was absolutely right. This wasn't even about the money anymore. This was about my mother genuinely believing she could rob me blind and face zero consequences whatsoever. I called my mom. She picked up on the second ring, sounding disgustingly cheerful, like she hadn't just committed multiple felonies 12 hours earlier. "Good morning, sweetie. I hope you've had some time to think rationally about." "You stole my credit card," I cut her off, my voice ice cold. "You stole $23,000 from me." Silence on the other end. Then, in that patronizing tone she'd absolutely perfected over the years, "Oh Bethany, don't be so incredibly dramatic about everything. I didn't steal anything. I simply handled the situation since you were being stubborn and unreasonable. You'll thank me later when you see how absolutely beautiful Vanessa's wedding turns out." The nerve on this woman. She didn't even bother denying what she'd done. Didn't apologize. Didn't show even a hint of remorse. She acted like she'd done me some kind of favor by committing fraud. "I want my card back immediately, and you're going to cancel every single one of those charges right now." She actually laughed, actually had the audacity to laugh at me. "Bethany, honey, it's already done and processed. The vendor deposits are completely non-refundable at this point. Just accept reality and move on with your life. Besides, what are you honestly going to do? Call the police on your own mother? Make yourself look like a horrible person. There it was, the real power play she was banking on. She genuinely thought I wouldn't press criminal charges because of family loyalty, because of how it would look to everyone, because she'd raised me to never cause a scene or make waves. Too bad for her, she'd seriously miscalculated who I'd become. Actually, about that, you've got exactly 24 hours to return every penny, or I'm filing an official police report for credit card fraud and identity theft. You wouldn't dare do that to your own mother. I hung up without another word. Then I called the bank back and officially reported my card as stolen and every single charge as fraudulent and unauthorized. The representative walked me through all the next steps, including filing a police report, which I scheduled for first thing the following morning. Then I did something that would pay off big time later. I called my dad. See, my parents divorced when I was 17, about 8 years ago now. Dad had moved clear across the country to Seattle, remarried a wonderful woman named Patricia, and built himself a completely new life. The divorce had been absolutely brutal and messy. Dad discovered Mom had been secretly siphoning money from their joint accounts for years to fund her shopping addiction and maintain appearances. That's precisely why he'd finally left her. He picked up on the first ring. Bethany? Is everything okay, sweetheart? Dad, I need to ask you something important about that will you mentioned before. The one Grandpa Harrison left. Thursday morning, I showed up at the Chicago Police Department's downtown precinct with printed bank statements, detailed transaction records, text message screenshots, and a complete timeline of events. The officer who took my report, Detective Morrison, was professional but clearly skeptical at first. You're filing criminal charges against your own mother for credit card fraud? She asked, carefully reviewing all the documents I'd brought. Yes, She broke into my apartment and stole my credit card from my desk, then spent my entire savings without any permission whatsoever. I have concrete evidence she was in my apartment without authorization. That definitely got her full attention. I pulled up the security footage on my phone, something I'd requested from my apartment building manager that morning. Clear as crystal, there was my mother sneaking into my building at 2:15 in the morning, using her key to enter my apartment, and leaving 43 minutes later carrying a small designer purse. Detective Morrison's expression shifted dramatically from skeptical to seriously concerned. This is substantial evidence, Miss Gardner. With this security footage and all the financial records, we can definitely move forward with charges. But I need to ask, are you absolutely certain you want to press full charges against your mother? I'm 100% certain. She nodded slowly and started all the official paperwork. Told me it would take several days to fully process, that they'd need to interview both my mother and sister, and that I should mentally prepare myself for serious family backlash. I was counting on the backlash. It was actually part of my plan. Meanwhile, Mom had apparently told Vanessa everything, because my phone started absolutely exploding with texts from my sister. Furious, entitled messages. How could you possibly do this to me? My wedding is in 7 weeks. Everyone's going to know what a selfish witch you are. I hope you're happy ruining my special day. You're dead to me. Actually, I was pretty happy. I didn't respond to any of her messages. Just took screenshots of everything and added them to my growing evidence folder. Sunday evening, I got a call from my uncle, Mom's older brother, Gregory. He'd always been the more reasonable one in the family, though he typically stayed completely out of family drama. Bethany, your mother called me absolutely hysterical. She says you're trying to have her arrested over some kind of misunderstanding. Uncle Greg, she literally stole my credit card and spent $23,000 without permission. That's not a misunderstanding. That's multiple felonies. He let out a long sigh. Look, I'm not saying what she did was right or acceptable, but is this really worth completely tearing the entire family apart? Can't you all just work this out like adults? Translation: can't you just let her rob you in peace and pretend it never happened? She had multiple chances to make this right. She refused every single one. This isn't about the money anymore, Uncle Greg. It's about them thinking they can do absolutely whatever they want to me without any consequences. There was a long, uncomfortable pause. Your mother mentioned something about fighting this legally. Said she has resources and connections. That made my blood run genuinely cold. Resources meant expensive lawyers, which is exactly why my conversation with Dad the other day was so critically important. After I hung up, I pulled out the thick folder Dad had overnighted to me via FedEx. Inside was complete documentation about my grandfather's estate, specifically the trust fund he'd established before he passed away 5 years ago. Grandpa Harrison had been an incredibly successful small business owner in the automotive industry. He'd sold his company for a substantial amount of money and split it between his children and grandchildren, but with very specific conditions carefully outlined in the legal trust. The key clause, buried deep in legal language: any beneficiary convicted of fraud, theft, embezzlement, or financial crimes against another family member shall immediately forfeit their entire share of the trust, to be redistributed to the remaining beneficiaries. Mom's share, $215,000, currently sitting in a managed trust account she couldn't touch until she turned 63 next year. Vanessa had a smaller share, $58,000, set to unlock when she turned 28. The absolute best part? Grandpa had named me as the secondary trustee after Dad. If Mom got convicted of fraud against me, I'd have legal authority to enforce the forfeiture clause. Every single penny would be redistributed to me and my cousins. Dad had warned me about this specific clause years ago, when the will was first read after Grandpa's funeral. Said Grandpa specifically included it because he'd witnessed Mom's manipulative tendencies firsthand for decades, and wanted to protect the family from her behavior. At the time, I'd thought it seemed paranoid and extreme. Now it was my nuclear option. Monday morning, I got a call from Detective Morrison. "Miss Gardner, we've thoroughly reviewed your case and all the evidence you provided. Given everything, we are definitely moving forward with formal charges. Your mother will be contacted this week for official questioning." What about my sister? She knowingly benefited from the fraud. That's more complicated legally. If she genuinely didn't know the money was stolen, we can't charge her as an accomplice. But we'll definitely be asking her some pointed questions during the investigation. After we hung up, I texted Vanessa one simple, direct message: "Every charge made on my stolen credit card needs to be refunded immediately. You have 48 hours. Her response came within minutes: "Are you completely insane? The deposits are all non-refundable. The wedding is in 6 weeks. I'm not canceling a single thing." I sent back: "Then you'll be getting married while Mom's dealing with fraud charges. Your choice entirely. You're bluffing. You won't actually do this to your own family." I didn't respond. Let her wonder. Wednesday morning, the bomb dropped. Detective Morrison and another officer showed up at Mom's house in the suburbs to question her about the fraud charges. My aunt, who lived 2 streets over, texted me within an hour with a complete play-by-play. Said the police were there for over 90 minutes, that Mom came out looking pale and genuinely shaken, that Vanessa had screamed at them from the driveway. That afternoon, my phone rang. Mom's lawyer, some guy named Richard Thornton, who apparently specialized in family law and white-collar criminal defense. "Miss Gardner, I represent Eleanor Gardner regarding the allegations you've made. I'm calling to discuss a reasonable resolution. My client admits there was a misunderstanding regarding the use of your credit card. She's prepared to set up a payment plan to return the $23,000 over 18 months. In exchange, you drop all criminal charges." I almost burst out laughing. 18 months? A payment plan? For money she stole? Your client stole my card and committed fraud. There's video evidence. Bank records. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's multiple crimes. The answer is absolutely not. His tone hardened immediately. "Miss Gardner, I'd strongly advise you to reconsider this position. Pursuing criminal charges against your mother will be expensive, extremely time-consuming, and will permanently destroy your family relationships. Is that really worth $23,000? "Yes," I said flatly. "It absolutely is." "Very well. But I should warn you, we'll be mounting an aggressive defense. This will get very ugly." "I'm counting on it." I hung up. After I hung up, my phone immediately started buzzing constantly with texts from various family members. My Aunt Laura, Uncle Gregory, even some distant cousins I barely spoke to twice a year. All of them trying desperately to convince me to drop the charges, to be the bigger person, to think about poor Vanessa's wedding. Not a single one of them called what Mom did wrong or criminal. It was all about protecting her and making absolutely sure Vanessa's big day wasn't ruined. Funny how family comes first only applies when they need something from me. That evening, Dylan came over with deep dish pizza and beer. He'd been checking in daily since the theft, making sure I was holding up emotionally. So they lawyered up hard, he said, settling onto my couch. Does that mean you're in trouble? Not even close. I've got security footage, bank records, and her own admission on a recorded call that I made sure to document. She's completely screwed and she knows it. The lawyer's just trying to minimize the damage at this point. What about the wedding? I pulled up Vanessa's Instagram on my phone. She'd posted this long, dramatic story about how her toxic sister was trying to ruin her special day, and how real family should support each other unconditionally. The comments were mostly supportive from her friends, who didn't know the actual truth. She's playing the victim card really hard, I said. Dylan shook his head. Man, your family's absolutely something else. What's your endgame here? I told him about the trust fund, about Grandpa's forfeiture clause, about the $215,000 Mom would lose if convicted. He let out a low whistle. Damn, that's strategic as hell. That's justice. She spent my whole life taking from me money, time, peace of mind, self-esteem. Now she's about to learn actions have consequences. And Vanessa. She's collateral damage. She could have done the right thing and refunded those charges. Instead, she's doubling down and playing victim. That's her choice. Dylan raised his beer bottle. I've got to say, I respect this so much. Most people would have folded by now. The next few days were an absolute blur of legal preparation. Detective Morrison called with regular updates. The investigation was moving forward quickly. They'd seized Mom's financial records and found evidence of other questionable transactions over the years. Apparently, this wasn't the first time Mom had borrowed family members' money without actually asking. Friday afternoon, exactly 1 week after the theft, I got an unexpected call from Travis, Vanessa's fiancé. I barely knew the guy beyond meeting him twice at family dinners, but he sounded absolutely stressed. Bethany, we really need to talk. Can you meet me for coffee? Just the two of us. Interesting development. I agreed to meet him Saturday morning at a neutral location. Saturday morning, I showed up at the Starbucks early, got myself settled in a back corner table where we could talk privately. Travis arrived 10 minutes later looking nervous and like he hadn't slept properly in days. He sat down across from me, hands wrapped around his coffee cup. Thanks for meeting me. I know everything's really messed up right now. That's one way to describe it. He took a deep breath. Look, I need you to understand something important. I didn't know your mom stole that money. Vanessa told me you'd agreed to contribute to the wedding, that you were happy to help out your little sister. I leaned back, studying him carefully. He seemed genuine, honestly distressed. And you believed that even though I've literally never spoken to you about the wedding even once. Vanessa said you two had a complicated relationship, that you were more comfortable talking through your mom about family stuff. I thought it was weird, but... He trailed off, running a hand through his hair. I wanted to believe her. We're supposed to get married in 6 weeks. So what changed your mind? The police showed up at her apartment Thursday to ask questions. I was there, heard the whole thing. When they left, I asked her point blank if she knew the money was stolen. She completely broke down and admitted everything. That definitely got my full attention. Everything. Travis nodded, looking sick. Your mom didn't just steal your card that one night. She'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. Had Vanessa scope out your apartment during a visit 2 months ago to figure out where you kept your wallet, your documents, everything important. Vanessa was the one who suggested hitting the account at night, when you'd be asleep and less likely to notice right away. My hands clenched into fists under the table. So Vanessa wasn't just a passive beneficiary who didn't ask questions. She was an active participant in planning the theft. The whole surprised sister act was exactly that, an elaborate act. She planned this whole thing with Mom. I asked, keeping my voice level despite the rage building. Yeah, apparently your mom had been trying to figure out how to access your money for months. Vanessa's the one who pointed out you'd probably say no if asked directly, so they needed to just take it and deal with the fallout later. And here I thought my trust issues couldn't possibly get any worse. Why are you telling me all this, Travis? He looked me straight in the eye. Because I'm not marrying someone who helps rob their own sister. I called off the wedding this morning. The words hung heavy in the air between us. I genuinely hadn't expected that. You called it off completely. Gave her back the ring about an hour before I came here. Told her I can't build a life with someone capable of that level of deception and manipulation. She's been calling and texting non-stop since, but I blocked her number. He pulled out his phone, showed me a string of increasingly frantic messages from Vanessa. Peter, please. It was Mom's idea. I'll make it right. And finally, you're going to regret this forever. She also said she'd tell everyone I abandoned her at the altar, that I cheated, whatever makes her look like the victim. I'm prepared for it. I already told my family the complete truth. I respected that. Guy had an actual backbone. What do you need from me? I asked. Nothing really. Just wanted you to know that not everyone in this situation is against you. And I thought you should know the full extent of what they actually planned. He paused. There's more. Of course there was. Travis pulled out his phone again, opened his photos, and showed me screenshots of text messages between Vanessa and Mom. Detailed plans to access my apartment, discussions about which wedding vendors to book first, logistics about timing. Even a message from Vanessa saying Beth's too passive to actually follow through with charges. She'll fold once the wedding gets closer. That one genuinely stung. Can I get copies of these messages? I asked. Already emailed them to you. Figured the police might want them for their investigation. We talked for another 30 minutes. When we parted ways, Travis shook my hand firmly. For what it's worth, I'm really sorry you're dealing with this. Your family's been making you think you're the problem your whole life. You're not. They are. I drove home in a complete daze, mind absolutely racing. Vanessa had actively conspired with Mom to rob me, all while posting on social media about how excited and blessed she felt, how much she loved her amazing family. The manipulation was absolutely breathtaking in its scope. That afternoon, I forwarded Peter's screenshots to Detective Morrison. She called me 20 minutes later. Miss Gardner, these messages change everything significantly. If Vanessa knowingly participated in planning the fraud, we can charge her as an accomplice. Are you prepared for that? I thought about all the times Vanessa had gotten away with things growing up. The lies, the stolen birthday money when we were kids, the time she deliberately crashed my car and blamed it entirely on me. Mom had always protected her, always made excuses, always swept it under the rug. Yes, I said firmly. Charge her. The following week was absolute chaos. Detective Morrison brought Vanessa in for formal questioning Monday morning. Based on the text messages Travis provided, they had more than enough evidence to charge her as an accomplice to fraud. She was officially arrested Tuesday afternoon. My phone exploded with messages from family members. All of them were outraged that I'd let the police arrest Vanessa, like I'd personally shown up with handcuffs and dragged her downtown myself. The best part? Mom's lawyer called me Wednesday, his tone completely different from before. Professional panic mode. Miss Gardner, given the recent developments with your sister's arrest, my client would like to propose a settlement. She'll return the full $23,000 immediately and cover all your legal costs in exchange for. No. Miss Gardner, please listen to reason. I said no. Your client had multiple chances to make this right. Now she gets to face the actual consequences. The prosecutor is talking about potential jail time. Possibly 2 to 5 years for fraud and identity theft. Is that really what you want for your mother? What I want is for her to be held accountable for once in her life. He tried several more angles: family healing, fresh starts, thinking about the bigger picture, protecting family legacy. I shut down every single one. Finally, he sighed heavily. You're making a serious mistake, Miss Gardner. This will haunt you. I can live with it. I hung up. Friday afternoon brought the moment I'd been waiting for. Detective Morrison called with a major update. Miss Gardner, your mother has been formally charged with credit card fraud, identity theft, and felony theft. Your sister's been charged as an accomplice. They're both looking at significant jail time if convicted. However, The prosecutor's office has indicated they'd be open to a plea deal if both defendants show genuine remorse and make full restitution. What kind of plea deal? Probation, community service, permanent criminal record, but no actual jail time if they cooperate fully and pay everything back immediately. But there's a catch. They'd have to allocute in court, admit exactly what they did publicly on the record. When would this happen? Hearings scheduled for Monday morning. Both your mother and sister would need to agree to the terms by end of business today. Otherwise, this goes to full trial. I thanked her and hung up. Then I waited. Wondered if Mom would swallow her massive pride and take the deal, or if her ego would force an actual trial. My phone rang 2 hours later. Mom's number. I let it go straight to voicemail. She called 4 more times, then left a message, her voice shaking badly. Bethany, please pick up. We need to talk about Monday. The lawyer says we should take the plea deal, that we don't have any choice, but that means admitting everything in open court. Everyone will know everything. Please, there has to be another way. Call me back. I didn't respond. Saturday morning, Vanessa tried calling from a different number, probably borrowed a friend's phone since I'd blocked hers. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail too, her voice desperate. Bethany, it's me. Look, I know you're angry, but please don't let this go to court. Travis left me. The wedding's completely cancelled. All my friends know what happened. I've lost absolutely everything. I'm begging you to drop the charges. I'll pay you back myself somehow. I promise I'll get a real job. I'll do whatever it takes. Just please don't make us go through with this. Her voice cracked at the end, dissolving into sobs. Part of me felt something, not quite sympathy, but maybe distant pity. Then I remembered her text to Mom. Beth's too passive to actually follow through. I didn't respond. Monday morning, I showed up at the Cook County Courthouse. Detective Morrison had told me I didn't technically have to attend, but I wanted to see this through to the end. I wanted to watch them face what they'd actually done. Call it closure, call it petty. I called it both. The courtroom was small, filled with the usual mix of defendants, lawyers, and family members waiting for various cases. I sat in the very back row, staying quiet and observant. Mom and Vanessa were up front with their lawyer, both dressed like they were attending a funeral. Appropriate, really. Vanessa's eyes were red and swollen from crying, going for that sympathetic defendant look. The judge, an older woman named Judge Harper, called the case. Mom and Vanessa stood as the charges were read aloud clearly. Judge Harper looked at them over her reading glasses. How do you plead? The lawyer cleared his throat nervously. Your Honor, both defendants wish to enter guilty pleas and accept the prosecution's plea agreement. Very well. Miss Gardner, you understand that by pleading guilty, you're admitting to these crimes on the permanent record? That you'll have criminal records. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, Your Honor. Vanessa just nodded, unable to form words. Then allocute. Tell me exactly what you did. This was it, the moment of truth. Mom took a shaky breath and began speaking, her voice completely hollow and defeated. I entered my daughter's apartment without permission in the middle of the night. I took her credit card from her desk drawer. I used it to make charges totaling $23,000 for my other daughter's wedding expenses. I did this knowing she had explicitly refused to give me the money. I did this intentionally and without her consent. Judge Harper turned to Vanessa. And you, Miss Gardner? Vanessa's voice cracked badly. I helped plan it. I told my mother where my sister kept her credit card and important documents. I knew the money was being taken without permission. I spent that money on my wedding, knowing it was stolen. The courtroom fell absolutely silent. Judge Harper stared at them both for a long, heavy moment. This court accepts your guilty pleas. You'll each serve 3 years probation, complete 200 hours of community service, and make full restitution of $23,000, with initial payment due in 30 days and the remainder on a court-approved probation schedule. You'll also attend mandatory court-ordered counseling. Any violation of probation terms will result in immediate jail time. They both nodded, completely humiliated and defeated. As everyone filed out of the courtroom slowly, Mom caught sight of me in the back row. Our eyes met across the room. Hers were filled with tears, with defeat, with something that might have been regret. I felt absolutely nothing. 3 days after the court hearing, my phone started ringing again. Mom first, then Vanessa, then various concerned family members. All of them wanting to talk, to work things out, to somehow move past this ugly chapter. I ignored all of them for 48 solid hours. Let them sit with the consequences of their actions. Let them wonder if I'd ever speak to them again. Then Friday morning, I got a call from an unknown number. Answered it out of curiosity. Is this Bethany Gardner? A woman's voice, professional and clipped. Yeah. Who's this? I'm Jennifer Martinez from Cornerstone Bank. I'm calling regarding Eleanor Gardner and Vanessa Gardner. They've listed you as a point of contact for a loan application. My blood ran cold. What loan application? They're applying for a joint personal loan of $23,000 to make the restitution payment to you as ordered by the court. However, given their recent criminal convictions, the application has been flagged. We need to verify some information with you. So they were trying to get a loan to pay me back, probably at a predatory interest rate, which they'd then somehow blame me for. I'm not involved in their financial decisions, I said firmly. Whatever they choose to do is entirely their business. Understood. I just needed to confirm you're the victim in their fraud case. We've verified through public court records, so that's all I needed. Thank you. She hung up. I sat there thinking about how the 30-day deadline for restitution was rapidly approaching, and they clearly didn't have the money. Mom probably couldn't access her trust fund yet, and Vanessa had no real income after the wedding cancellation. Good. Let them struggle. That afternoon, I finally called my dad back. Bethany, I've been trying to reach you. Saw the court records online. Hell of a week you had. You could definitely say that. Listen, I need to know about executing the forfeiture clause in Grandpa Harrison's trust. Mom was convicted of fraud against me. That triggers the clause, right? He was quiet for a long moment. Yeah, it absolutely does. You want to go through with enforcing it? Yes. I want to enforce it completely. I'll send you all the trustee documentation. You'll need to file formal notice with the probate court and the trust administrator. Takes about 60 days to fully process, but once it's done, her share gets redistributed. You'll get the largest portion since you're the direct victim of her crime. And Vanessa? Her share is tied to the exact same clause. If she's convicted of fraud against family, she loses it too. Both of them forfeit a combined $273,000. I let that number sink in. $273,000. More than enough to cover what they'd stolen from me 10 times over. Do it, I said firmly. File all the paperwork. That evening, I drove to my mom's house in the suburbs for the first time since the theft. Didn't go inside immediately. Just sat in my car across the street watching. The lights were on. I could see shadows moving around inside the living room. Wondered what they were saying to each other. If they were fighting. If they were crying. Probably planning which family member to guilt trip next. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. I know you're outside. Please come in. We desperately need to talk. Of course she'd seen me. Woman had eyes like a surveillance hawk. I got out of my car and walked slowly to the front door. It opened before I could knock. Mom stood there looking like she'd aged 15 years in 2 weeks. Dark circles under her eyes, hair not perfectly styled for once, shoulders slumped. I stepped inside. Vanessa was on the couch looking equally destroyed. No makeup, wearing sweatpants, a far cry from her usual Instagram perfect appearance. We need to discuss the restitution payment, Mom said, gesturing to the dining room table covered in papers. Loan applications, budget spreadsheets, bank statements all spread out in chaos. We don't have $23,000 in liquid cash available. The bank's offering a loan, but the interest rate is 28%. It'll take us 6 years to pay it off completely. Not my problem, I said flatly. Vanessa's head snapped up. What do you mean not your problem? You're the one who pressed charges. You're the one who put us in this impossible position. No, you're the ones who stole from me. You put yourselves here. How can you be so heartless? Vanessa stood up, voice rising with that familiar entitled edge. Family forgives each other. You're supposed to. I'm supposed to what? I cut her off sharply. Let you rob me and say thank you? That's not how family works, Vanessa. That's how abuse works. And also, I'm pretty sure real family doesn't case your apartment like it's some kind of heist movie. But maybe I missed that Hallmark Christmas special. Mom held up a hand. Everyone calm down, please. Bethany, there has to be a way we can work this out reasonably. What if we set up a payment plan directly with you? Smaller amounts over longer time period. You mean like the 18-month plan your lawyer already proposed that I explicitly rejected? We are desperate, Mom said, and for once there was no manipulation in her voice. Just raw desperation. If we take this predatory loan, we'll be drowning in debt for years. Vanessa can't find any work with a criminal record showing up. I might lose my job when they run the mandatory background check for my nursing license renewal. We are drowning here, Bethany. I looked at both of them, at the complete ruins of their carefully constructed lives. Part of me felt genuine satisfaction, but another part, the part that remembered family dinners and birthday parties and Mom teaching me to ride a bike when I was 6, felt something softer than pure rage. Here's exactly what's going to happen, I said slowly, carefully. You're going to take that loan. You're going to pay me back every single penny within 30 days like the court ordered. And then you're both going to therapy. Real, actual therapy, not just court-mandated counseling where you show up and say what they want to hear. Vanessa opened her mouth to argue, but I held up a hand. And if, and this is a massive if, you actually do the real work, actually change your behavior patterns, actually show genuine remorse over the course of several years, maybe we can rebuild something eventually. But it won't ever be what it was. It'll never be what it was because that version of our family was built on you two using me as your personal ATM for 25 years, and I'm completely done being used. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Bethany, please. There's something else we need to discuss. The trust fund. Your father mentioned you're enforcing the forfeiture clause. That's our entire future. That's our financial security. So Dad had already contacted them. Perfect. Yeah, you committed fraud against me. Grandpa Harrison's trust is crystal clear about what happens when you do that. That's $215,000, Vanessa shouted. That's my inheritance. You can't just take it away. I'm not taking it. You're forfeiting it. Big difference. Grandpa saw this coming somehow. He knew what you both were capable of and built in protection for the family. Now that protection's being triggered because you proved him absolutely right. Mom sank into a chair, face in her hands. We'll have nothing. No savings, no nest egg, nothing for retirement. You'll have what everyone else has, what you earn through your own actual work. Welcome to how the rest of us have been living our entire lives. The silence that followed was heavy and oppressive, broken only by Vanessa's quiet crying. I felt no triumph, no victory. Just a weird emptiness, like closing the door on a chapter of my life I'd never wanted to write in the first place. I'm leaving now, I said, heading toward the door. You've got 27 days left to make that restitution payment. After that, we'll see what happens. Bethany, wait. Mom's voice stopped me at the threshold. Do you hate us? I turned back, saw not the manipulative mother who'd stolen from me, but a broken woman who destroyed her own family through greed and toxic favoritism. No, I said honestly. I don't hate you. I just don't trust you anymore, and I genuinely don't know if I ever will again. That's on you to fix. Not me. I walked out, got in my car, and drove away. 4 weeks later, the initial restitution payment hit my bank account on the very last possible day, before they'd be in violation of probation. $23,000. I deposited it, watched my savings balance return to where it should be, and felt an enormous weight lift off my shoulders. 2 months after that, the trust forfeiture was finalized. I received a check for $168,000, my share of the redistributed funds from both Mom and Vanessa's forfeitures. I put it in a high-yield savings account and didn't touch it. That money was my future, my emergency fund, my security blanket that no one could ever steal again. Mom texted me occasionally. Updates about her therapy sessions, apologies that felt slightly more genuine each time. Small, tentative attempts to rebuild some kind of bridge between us. I responded sometimes, short messages, polite but distant. Vanessa stopped reaching out after I didn't respond to her 7th apology text. Heard through family gossip that Travis had moved to Denver, that she was working at a call center trying to rebuild her life from scratch. Good. She needed to learn what actual hard work felt like. 6 months after everything, Dylan and I were having our usual Friday coffee when he asked, "Any regrets about how it all went down?" I thought about it carefully. No. They tried to drown me with their entitlement and manipulation. Instead, they drowned themselves. And me? I learned to swim. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Therapy homework is to write you a letter. Can we meet for coffee next week? No expectations. Just want to try." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Maybe. I'll think about it." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, maybe not ever. But it was a crack in the door. And that was more than they deserved, but maybe exactly what I needed to finally move forward. I looked up at Dylan. You know what the wildest part is? I actually feel free for the first time in my life. Like I'm not waiting for the other shoe to drop, not waiting for them to ask for something, not constantly on guard. "That's called boundaries," Dylan said with a smile. "Looks good on you." He was right. It did. My family had spent 25 years teaching me that love meant sacrifice, that being a good daughter meant being a doormat, that saying no made me selfish. They were wrong about all of it. Real love doesn't steal. Real family doesn't manipulate. And standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. I took a sip of my coffee and smiled. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt like myself. Not the version of Bethany they'd wanted me to be, but the version I'd chosen to become. And that version? She didn't take anyone's crap anymore.